Fantastic. Good afternoon. I always love that movie. It kind of gets me pumped up after lunch a little bit. Thanks for joining our session today. My name is Ed Welsh. I'm the Director of Enterprise Sales for Insider. I have the absolute pleasure of running today's fireside chat. Obviously, hopefully that gave you a bit of an introduction to our platform for those that aren't familiar with Insider. I also have the pleasure of introducing our latest tool, and it's extremely relevant. You know, we're hearing a lot about agentic AI, our various bots, and our certainly agents that we'll be developing. And Insider has just launched Agent One. So, we heard, obviously, Kate talk about the development of their own agent. Insider has now developed 3 various agents that you can pick up off the shelf and personalize to your businesses. So that's a shopping agent to lead and manage the likes of conversational commerce and conversational shopping. We'll have the support agent, so where your business has got things like ticketing, maybe potentially phone response, we can now leverage agents to complete those tasks and get more efficient. And lastly is the insight agent. So that's where we're talking about analytical data, reporting as marketers and digital kind of developers within our business to then help drive those results and insights to help you perform your task more effectively. The last one's really interesting also. It can help you sort of, if you've got a problem within your business, ultimately, kind of input the problem within the agent and kind of troubleshoot and solve that problem together. Quite often we find marketers are struggling to ultimately understand, what is the potential journey that I need to develop based on maybe, conversion rate dropping on the website or click-through rate is dying on email. Then the suggestions may come to leverage other channels. Have I tried WhatsApp? Have I tried, web push? Previously considered quite a dormant kind of old channel. But certainly the bots are analysing the performance of that and will make those recommendations. So look, obviously, without further ado, what I'd like to do is kick off today's fireside chat. I am joined by 3 magnificent people across the industry. They bring a wealth of knowledge. Corey Dean comes from Wild Secrets, and he's managing a highly considered e-commerce business, both managing privacy and personalisation, and certainly brand trust, which is extremely sensitive if you're not familiar with Wild Secrets. Obviously, that's in the sex education and sex toy space. So yeah, if you haven't heard about it and you have registered for our giveaway today, you might be pleasantly surprised by what's in the box. And I'll be giving that away at the end of the section. The section. It might be a vibrating box too. Paul Bark, joins us from Chemist Warehouse. He's at the forefront of Omnichannel retail at serious scale. We're all familiar with the business where operational excellence meets data-driven marketing. And look, truly, the customer experience literally has impact on the health within our society. And then lastly, Maddie Baxter-Smith, New Balance. There's a ton of them here as I look around the room today. And Maddie is leading the charge in blending digital and physical experiences, creating loyalty communities through authentic storytelling and smart connected journeys. So throughout today's session, this is not good. Clearly, I've been partnered with Corey for too long. We're going to explore and evolve their customer strategies, where they're placing bets on AI or where they're potentially managing, the intersection of AI within their businesses. I think you're going to hear 2 very different perspectives on that, and one that I found really fascinating, partnering with the different businesses. And we're going to take a look at what meets modern expectations in 2025. So without further ado, I'll ask the panelists to join us up on stage.
Try not to say section.
You can, mate, it's your business. You can say whatever you like. Thanks so much for joining us today. So where we want to kick off, and let me make sure I kind of punch through these. So apologies, I haven't been doing that. So firstly, I think a couple of topics have been covered off. I would like, our panelists to talk from their point of view, specifically around understanding current customer experience landscape. So the first question is, quite broadly, what are the most pressing customer experiences challenges for your businesses in 2025, and how are you ultimately looking to combat that within your businesses? Corey, I might start with you.
Yeah, I think our biggest challenge is just staying deeply connected to our customer in, excuse me, in a really competitive environment. We want to stay connected to their needs and their desires. You never know where your competitors might come from. Even the gentleman next to me. So, it's important that we basically, understand, okay, we need a vehicle to be able to do that. And part of our business is PHE, or Wild Secrets. We basically didn't have the right vehicle for that. So we had to one of my jobs was to quickly assess, okay, how do we choose the right vehicle for that? And that's about, really something that would champion our brand authenticity, but also basically our, how do we have a stronger conversation with our customers? So we went from a really sort of siloed, stationary and siloed approach to something that's more agile and targeted. I think it's been a year now that we've been with Insider. So it was about partnering with a platform that we knew that would basically meet all those touch points and channels.
I think just on that, one thing I heard at another show last week, and we weren't giving that talk, or it wasn't about Insider, was just being able to take the risk for change. And you talk about vehicle. I think, so often, if it's not completely broke, why would you change it? I think there's been a lot of perspective that, change can be bad. And of course, you don't need to rip up and kind of throw the water out of the bath. But I think if something is not working, like for example, your car, if it's not running efficiently, it's not getting you from point A to point B, then you should change it. And it will ultimately, improve the value and the performance of your teams, the company, and then you can look forward much further, especially at the rate of change we're seeing now. If you can't plug in things like, agentic AI and these agents, then, you're kind of at a loss and behind quicker than you ever thought.
Yeah, and it was just so painful to see that friction there, because I know that was, one of the pain points is like just stopping the team from doing what they do best. It was more about, okay, we need to bring this data across to this platform, and we need to, to weaponize it. It would just take so long to that whole process. But we knew that we had to make some changes there, and so. Part of that was just, how do we do it at scale as well, right? Because we've got 8 custom websites, so we had to integrate tech with all those websites. So it's about knowing that and trying to do that in the most efficient way possible.
Yep, awesome, thank you. Paul, you've been through a massive rebuild program yourself. What can you share and kind of what's keeping you up at night and the way in which you're going to tackle that?
What's keeping me up at night? I've been away for probably like 48 hours. We just launched our completely new website. We've restacked it completely. So what we had before was a platform that we couldn't really use. It couldn't scale. We had Black Friday last year and the site crashed. The volume of people coming to our site, everyone wants their deals. We couldn't support it. We couldn't support our customers. So we're already in the process, but it took us about 2.5 years to get to the point where we're today in having a brand new website, brand new tech stack. I'm not reliant on developers anymore. I'm reliant on my team. My team's now responsible for everything in terms of the front-end experience. So it's a big shift in dynamics, and it's also one of the challenges I'm going to face over the next, tomorrow, every day afterwards, is their return on investment. Are we doing the right thing? Is all this money that's been spent on this platform, all these platforms, are they actually generating revenue? Is our conversion rate going up? All those different things as well, and making sure that we actually are accountable for our customer, and that every single person in my team and my wider ecom team is accountable for that customer now. We all have the ability to change and make decisions and be really quick about it. The biggest challenge I find from everyone else in the business is now we've got brand new tech. I get people saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. Just because we've got new tech doesn't mean we should do it, or we could do it. It's around being able to investigate and scale and be able to build stuff quickly but it doesn't mean we should all the time. So if you were in the conversations earlier around AI, it's not always just about the data and what the data's telling you, it's the reason why. So it's just using those customers to actually tell us, cool, this happened, but why did it happen? And then we can marry that up to a feature or a program of work that we want to do in the future. So there's a lot of stuff that we're working on in the background to continue to enhance and build out our site. But it's been a process. We're still going. If you're on our site, please let me know. If you're finding any issues, we're still going through a whole bunch of stuff, but it's a brand new experience for everyone. So at the moment, that's my life.
Nice.
Getting
we're
that
going to
done.
put your mobile number up in a second so we can text you directly.
Sure.
When their scripts don't turn up.
Yeah. Well, the scripts don't turn up, but at the end of the day, we're looking at customers. We're looking at everything we do for our customers. We're looking at our health space. We're trying to make it easier for everyone to have access to medications, have access to general health information. We've launched a whole new blog, basically. So we're actually writing content now for our customers. So if you're going on our website and you're looking at and wanted to know more about men's health or baby stuff or whatever, we've actually got curated content now to actually support that, and the products that can actually help through that as well. So we're actually listening to our customers. We're understanding what your needs are. We understand that sometimes information is not easily available or readable. We're trying to make that easier for a customer to actually make an informed decision, an informed purchase.
Nice. Maddie, from your point of view, I know it's probably a little bit pointier. We've talked about 2 big programs, so probably, moving the needle based on your strategy. Can you share kind of some things that are keeping you up and what you guys are driving towards?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for us, not really a CX challenge, but our priorities for this year is probably around really capturing that single view of customer. We've got so many different pieces of tech and so much data, but it's like, what's the main source of truth? So we've enlisted Telium globally as our CDP. It's been a bit of a beast to roll out. I'm sure there's people in the room that will agree with that. But once we have that up and running, really excited to leverage that so we can better speak to our customers. I think also for us, New Balance is a big wholesale business. So we sell through like Rebel Sports, Style Runner. So looking at how we kind of create that omnichannel experience in the wholesale world, retail, and then e-com as well. So we're just really trying to work together with our wholesale partners to make sure we have this consistent messaging, consistent brand experience. It's a little bit difficult working with wholesale partners doing that. Obviously, it's easier to control with our doors in our website, but I think we're doing a much better job there. And finally, I think it's just around that personalisation piece. New Balance is always a little bit late to the party with trends and being kind of first adopter. We're never first to market with anything. You'll hear about that later on. But just, personalisation, and we've just enlisted Insider to really kind of support us with that. And I'm very excited to get Telium up and running so we can plug that in there and just kind of go hard and better serve our customer.
Yep. And look, sticking with you, Maddie, these are 2 stats that have been constantly threaded today. One is, content consumption down in 2.3% in 2024, and then obviously the drop in conversion rate at 5.6%. You've touched on some of the tactical things you're doing from a, customer experience perspective, CRO strategy, but are there any others in which, are helping you guys drive that?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. Like, everyone is being asked to do more with less, and trade's been tough. I'm sure most people can relate to that. I think what's been working for us is we're very reactive in the digital marketing space. So we are having a bi-weekly whip with our digital marketing agency to just really kind of make optimizations across our campaigns, reallocate budgets, and that's been really helping us drive a result through our digital channels. I think the other thing is it's like this new concept around slow marketing, so having really kind of thoughtful, high-quality content. Usually for us, we get that locally created. So being a global brand, Global loves to send us this creative to use, and it just does not resonate here at all. It's not how people wear the product. It just does not work for us. So that local creation piece. But what we're also finding recently is real-world experiences that we are creating at New Balance are actually helping us cut through onto our digital channels as well. So just some activations that we've been running, giving people content that they can share on their social media is helping us kind of get that cut through that we need. And so some examples of this that we've been doing recently, we did like a little bit of a hijack moment at Gold Coast Marathon against the main performance partner, who I won't name. But basically we set up shop just outdoor outdoors of kind of the marathon area and worked back with like a local pizza shop to fuel the marathon runners with margaritas and pizza ahead of their race and like present our new running shoe that was launching. I think, working back with the Australian Open and having a really big brand moment like that really is helping us kind of get that cut through we need across our digital channels too.
Yeah, awesome. It's amazing that it's, we've been talking about omnichannel for 10 years and it's coming back to grassroots omnichannel marketing, activation, guerrilla marketing, but then tying that back in, into your digital strategy. I know we're working with some of Australia's largest brands still trying to pull online data and unify that into the digital, e-commerce space as well. And so, as much as we think we've got to jump from here to there, there's still, kind of grassroots tactical strategies that brands are still getting right. Corey, jumping to you, I guess, on a similar question, how are you combating the stats at 2.3, 5.6 drop in conversion? What sort of tactical activities are you guys doing? Kind of share with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, what we found is, we were kind of losing that relevancy with the customer. We wanted to have a stronger, more meaningful conversation. Prior to Insider, we weren't unifying the customer profile with product data at all. We were doing a little bit of it, but just probably a horrible job. So, when we were, we moved from sort of like batch and blast to sort of more just targeted, automated journeys that can scale across the 8 domains. So we things like price drops and recommendation and stuff like that is now just purely based around the customer profile. So that just means that it's more relevant to the consumer. We're using the data objectively, and it's done in a way that's we have a very small team in Abbotsford, so it's just done in a way that can be launched really quickly and seamlessly.
Yep, awesome. Well, thank you. We will switch gears and move on to a little bit of a different topic now. Again, we mentioned omnichannel experience and mobile, but I'll go over to you, Paul. Obviously, you're the one driving the mobile app on stage. So curious to understand, mobile apps show a 95% of visits, of return visits, once they've adopted and downloaded the app. How are you balancing acquisition versus, depending loyalty through mobile experiences with Chemist Warehouse?
If anyone uses our app, good luck. You can't. It's not really an app for shopping. It's not an app for just your general retail. It's an app for prescriptions, managing medications, managing your dosage and kind of stuff. Our whole vision was that we needed to find what an app means to a customer, and then what the customer needed was a place to have that connection with the stores, have a direct line to a pharmacist, see all their medications, manage their dosages, all those kind of things as well. So, we looked at driving e-com in it, but our e-com site from a mobile lens works really well. Why would we rebuild that in an app? It made no sense. It makes no commercial sense to rebuild and do that and maintain two different systems. So we found the niche. We found out where it sits in the market. We build on that, but it also builds that loyalty factor as well. Like you're saying, it's more around bringing customers into stores, talking with our pharmacists, building that relationship. It's all around just that relationship building so they have trust with us at the end of the day. And we're not going to branch out too far with having a big, full-blown experience when it's not needed. We have a very good mobile site. Well, we do now. And we're just trying to figure out what the balance looks like. In the future, I'm not saying we won't. It's just more around now. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make commercial sense to actually rebuild in a mobile app experience.
Yep. Yeah, awesome. I mean, again, years ago, everyone was app first. And Maddie, you as a business, New Balance have decided not to, delve into its own independent app. How have you guys, again, bridged the, customer experience and that intersection between app, mobile, and kind of e-commerce for you guys?
Yeah, I think going off what Paul was saying, there's no app on our roadmap. Like, we've got a pretty good website. There's a few limitations. I speak to it every day around what I want to do and what I try and get across the line. But it would just feel like a bit of a double up. I think we have enlisted a few different strategies and pieces of technology to help kind of bridge that omnichannel experience. So we are, like I said, working with Telium for that single view of customer. We've rolled out Nava. We're running a lot of post-purchase kind of strategies through there. We've got some pre-purchase support that will be coming that will help bridge the gap between online and in-store, which we're super excited to roll out as well. So that will start in the US and then it will slowly come down to APAC, which will be great. And I think for us, the other thing is just Aptos, so we've rolled that out, and that's really going to help us kind of understand our stock position as well, and then further support initiatives like buy online, pick up in store, and just really kind of serving our customer that same experience, whether they're online or in our physical store.
Yep, awesome. Corey Dean, quickly with yourself, app, yay or nay on the roadmap, and then that intersection of desktop, mobile. Versus potentially also considering, I know for WhatsApp it's difficult for you guys, but there's an appetite there for it if you can get past the legislators.
Yeah, we definitely don't have an app on the horizon, but definitely looking at ways that we can engage the customer more, where they are. We do, some really good sort of stuff with some content creators, which are big in our space. So, they're like Sex Life podcasts and whatnot. So we're really sort of tapping in. We've got a very, very strong affiliate program with some of these people, and we're sort of bringing, we're sort of dialing into that and trying to get learnings that we can get what, people love about their content and bring that on site. So we can sort of, go through these networks and find out what really resonates with their customer, and then of course when they shop with us, we can do the same.
Yeah. And do you take a different approach when you think of customer experience and testing for desktop versus mobile, and how granular do you get in those experiments and the customer experience for those on the different channels?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like we one of the things that we've tried to work really hard on is that CRO program. We had an interesting experience where we've sort of done a little bit of a 360 where we were outsourcing. Well, we were actually relying on a partner to do our CRO, and then we were finding that we were probably absolving a bit of our responsibility as a brand. It's like if they fail, it's okay. We sort of, but we needed to fully invest in it. So we brought that sort of back in house, and then we found that we were more accountable for the results. We really dug down into learning the platform that we use currently for the CRO, and we found that we were more connected to the whole process. So that actually worked for us better. Now we're super happy with our test velocity. We've got a full 12-month calendar of tests that we can use in order to improve that sort of customer experience on site, and we're more vested in the results. So naturally, we can spend a little bit more time analysing it and working understanding what really works on site.
So I guess the advice is kind of speed, agility, and kind of again not relying on third parties. Because I heard again last week, someone was brought a report on that performance and what attribution really meant to the business versus the way in which the agency was attributing success. Any third-party agency or platform, we can attribute anything to classify it as being a successful proof of concept or that campaign actually worked. But if the business really isn't, putting a stake in the ground to say this is what success or the CFO cares about or senior leadership, then, it's good as the paper it's printed on.
Yep, 100%.
Cool. And again, please be asking questions. We will check them towards the end. If there's any specific, we want this to be as valuable as possible to you all in the room. So we'll switch gears again to a very hot topic, is AI implementation and empowerment. One I'm personally fascinated in, I'm sure like all of us. I'm going to start with Maddie because I think New Balance, I've only been fortunate enough to recently start partnering with New Balance. And there was an interesting contract that passed over our desk during that process. And so I might ask Maddie, how you're navigating the world of AI, your expectations internally, and certainly through your third-party partners like Insider and others you work with.
Yeah, great question. Like I mentioned, we're pretty late to the party, so we're not really at this point in time adopting and at the forefront of AI. We're quite conservative, and I think it does make me a little bit worried when I go to industry events and conferences, because I'm like, is this going to be a disadvantage to us and our business and our customers at some point? I think at the moment we've done a lot of training on AI policy internally. We've all had to sign off on a document, and the only approved AI we're using is Microsoft Copilot, so we're not there yet. When we were onboarding Insider, we did have to put a submission through our global AI committee. It is very rigid and it's highly governed. And we were looking to onboard smart recommenders, which does use machine learning and AI in that, and that actually got rejected just based on the fact that there was kind of machine learning included in that. So it is difficult, but I think it's also helpful to come to events like this, and it doesn't really matter how much the ROI is on this piece of technology you're putting forward or the business case. I think now we have to take a different approach with how we're trying to get AI across the line and actually go back around, other brands and how they're using AI and how our competitors are using it and how we can better serve our customers rather than looking at the financials of it, I think, for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a challenge, me going back to our business to say, hey, can we switch it off?
Yeah.
Is it actually a thing to, kind of almost revert back to where we were previously? But I think it's, a really important feature to have in your tool set to say, well, if this doesn't start working for us, can you turn it off? Or is the platform just going to continuously utilize AI or certain bots, and we're going to potentially lose control of what is being communicated or sent through or shown in front of our customers. So I actually found it to be a nice challenge. And I think it's certainly also a forward-facing, advanced philosophy because the documents are only going to continue to be written. There's only going to be more governance and some control set around this space. Paul, to yourself, mate, 84% of C-level executives believe AI is essential. Keen to hear your thoughts in it. I know, again, health, it's a little bit, it's an important one to manage and control. But also, if you have any thoughts, for the audience on what you're doing internally, for your teams to make them more efficient, would love to hear your ideas.
So being health related, we are heavily regulated, just like you are as well, around what we can and can't do. We have to give warnings. We have to can't track certain customers. You can't do a lot of things, and we have to be very agile with that. And using AI, we have to also then consider that as well. So you can't just add a product from the product listing page. You have to see the product. You have to look at the warnings. You have to do all these kind of things. It just becomes a bit of a long process if you're just trying to buy a product. So how then do we use AI to be smarter, but also then not breach the government rules? We do things that aren't product related. We do things that are just going to make your life easier. So we know that as a customer, you might like vitamins. We prioritize vitamins up front. We know what you want to do. We want to make that menu option easier. We want to make sure that because we know you come here every week to buy it, we're just making it easier to find. We're making things easier for you to do your job that you need to get done and leave. We don't, necessarily need you to stay on site all the time. We don't want you to continue to search for things that, take ages to find. We just want to make it easy. So we use AI in that respect, and that's for an on-site kind of perspective. Internally, there's a whole bunch of things that we're trying to do with AI. I want to simplify my team. I want my team to be better at uncovering problems and working through problems rather than trying to do the maintenance, the day-to-day stuff. When we do customer interviews, we might interview 10, 20 people at a time. There's a lot of information there. We need to use AI to consolidate that information. We need to use AI to help us do the synth. We need to make sure that it's building out these themes and stuff like that for us. Not saying that we just trust it to do everything, because it won't probably do it correct, and we actually have to go back and understand what the customer is saying sometimes to actually get to the right result. But trying to use AI to simplify tasks that you traditionally take ages. So, as I said, we can do an interview or 10, 20 interviews. Usually that could take a week to synth, depending on how much time we have. It could take a day. It could take less. We can get that information faster. We can actually then start looking at that information and going, well, this might mean this, so we can actually go investigate that further. It also comes down to when we do our trade meetings, we understand what products are trending, what's going wrong with the site, understanding bits and pieces. And my data team are really very interesting people. Data people are. and they love using AI, and they're building out all these models, and they're trying to find use cases to implement on site. And they were trying to do all these things to do with trade, and we're like, hey, stop, that's too much, you're assuming too much. So using it for CX purposes is probably better. They're importing all our data, they're spitting out a whole bunch of information for us to actually use and digest a bit easier. So it's just using AI right. It's not like using it for everything, and there's always a human insight or element to it as well. You have to input the data, you have to make sure the data is correct at the other end, but you also have to know what you're inputting. You can't just go and say something and think that it's all going to be perfect, because you actually have to understand what you're trying to achieve first. So AI is super powerful. It's just more around using it right for the right context as well, and not trusting everything that comes out, because it doesn't always work.
And so if you're going for a job at Chemist Warehouse, you need to jump onto ChatGPT and tell it how great you are, and then it'll punch you out as a viable candidate.
I always like to meet you in person first.
Yeah. Great. Corey, I know you're doing a couple of things in this space. I know it's, again, regulated. Can you share a little bit about that, mate, and kind of your journey?
Yeah, we kind of, we're very sort of primitive. We're still sort of developing a product in-house where it helps the customer choose a product, because, there's still quite a little bit of mystique around some of our products and how they work and how they operate. So, so we've basically, got a whole heap of product data, and we're developing it so you can ask in natural language, how do I, use this particular, product and whatnot. So we feel that there's an opportunity to help customers along that journey and maybe fill in some gaps in their sort of knowledge around the product. And likewise, we can consume our blogs in a large language model and start to provide sort of some data and some some help that we've got through content creators who are experts in their field and whatnot. So it's the data's there. It's just sort of bringing it more front and center to the customer and on their terms. So we've noticed a lot of brands sort of rush to market with a product. We're a little bit cautious on it just because of the regulations and the nature of it. But we feel there is a solution there, and we're sort of testing and evolving the product. And within the next sort of few months, we'll have a solution.
Yeah, nice. Is there anyone in the audience who doesn't know what Wild Secrets do or sell?
Give you a hint. If we do our job right, someone has an orgasm. So that's a good way to think about things.
There you go. Everyone's very happy in the audience. They clearly know what you do, Corey. That's great. I think it actually leads us to our next topic, which is around data strategy, which hopefully that works. Yeah, data strategy and unification. And Maddie touched on this with Tilium, kind of integrating her customer data, getting a single customer view. But Corey, you mentioned, kind of assisting customers in their buying, decision-making process, educating. I'm going to flip this question kind of on its head from where we started, but when you think about collecting first-party data, sort of on-site experience, the way in which you can empower that, I know so often you come to a website and bam, can I get your email address, phone number, what's your date of birth? I can't think of a worse experience than coming to a new website, having never gone there before, and someone asking for my own personal information. Now, of course, we're all happy to give it, at some point, but at what point do I ask for that? And I know for you guys, if I've been browsing on a website for 3 minutes, I've looked at a particular category, maybe I'm showing exit intent. So now is the right time to kind of authenticate and ask for that permission. But can you share a little bit about what you guys are up to? Yeah,
so with the ability to unify the customer profile, understand what the customer wants and what their sort of product preference is, it's the opportunity to create intelligent and automated flows around that.
Yep.
It's email and SMS, depending on what channel you go through, you tend to lack relevancy. It tends to be a bit of a sort of batch and blast sort of strategy. So, we're finding that we're getting higher opens and click-throughs just by spending that little bit of extra time and looking, into the customer profile and understanding okay, if we, present them with an offer or a product and, they're shown, a lot of intent around it, then we can be more relevant and we can have a stronger conversation and it feels less sort of invasive and more, okay, we're trying to help the customer on their journey.
So that segmentation, now that you've got that data, kind of empowering your teams, and of course, someone's asked me about, the cookieless world. So I guess it's empowering the future of that. So being able to, kind of store that first-party information and knowing that customer when they return and log back in.
Absolutely. I mean, the nature of our business, we know that there is a lot of, anonymous browsing, so incognito browsing. So, and that's sort of leaning into people want, that consent-driven sort of approach when it comes to cookies, and they only want to give up what they're comfortable with giving up, and that's fine. We just have to be prepared for that strategy. So we tend to start with the hardest privacy strategy and then work backwards from there and go, okay, if we didn't know much about a customer, what does that look like from a journey perspective, and then sort of build on that within, the data that's available within the insider, and then create, better experiences.
Yeah, cool. And it's great. You guys are automating those journeys, testing them, in silos, just seeing how they perform, and also testing, the request for first-party information in a very small, subset of the audience to see how they respond. And Maddie, I know this is, really relevant to you guys at the moment. You're launching new campaigns and looking at those strategies. Can you share some insights from New Balance?
Yeah, I think it's just like that transparency piece. And I think one thing we do is we actually it's like the value proposition. So trying to demonstrate to the customer why we're trying to get their data and how we're better going to serve them by having that data. So I think an example of that is with our lead gen campaign, we do ask people for their date of birth, but we do call out in the campaign so we can send you a birthday reward. And so you kind of go, oh, okay, I'm going to give them my birthday and they're going to send me, something of value and also recognize my birthday. So I think kind of telling customers how you're going to be using their data can help as well.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I think we were even launching, category of interest.
Yep.
So, kind of, again, not having to understand what they were clicking on, but just literally ask, what categories are you interested in moving forward. Awesome. Paul, I know this is one we've worked a lot with you guys on. You guys have, you're pretty advanced in this space. Can you share some quick thoughts on that?
Once upon a time, we did collect information from people, just collected information. We've invested a lot in trying to clean that up. We've have a privacy officer now. We actually understand privacy controls. We've actually built out a whole bunch of new privacy things to support that. But we've gone through our platforms to just cold and just got rid of stuff, re-engage these customers, making sure that they actually want to hear from us. We went through a period of just blasting everyone with emails, just going crazy, to a point where now we've got proper segmentation and we're actually targeting people in the right areas and making sure that they've got the right information at the right time. It's taken a long time to get there, but it's just around dedicated resources and dedicated people to actually manage it. We're also thinking very strategically around where in the journey do we contact our customer. Where's the right time? We don't want to do it through the checkout like sometimes we used to do. But it's like, same before, exit intent, looking at where it makes sense in that journey and tailoring it for that customer as well, and getting the right consents. But at the end of the day, it's just cleaning our data up. It's making sure we've got the right people, put in the right buckets. We've got everything hooked up from our email platform to our CDP to everything else that we deal with, and making sure that all the information is correct and it's also triaged and validated all the time to make sure people are getting the right information. So we take it pretty seriously. We're making sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers. And we have millions and millions of subscribers. They churn, they come back. They churn, they come back. It's just around making sure they get the right campaigns and making sure we're targeting the right way. We've done a lot with our emails as well. We've looked at, the length of emails. How much information are we giving our customers? What's enough? What's too much? So we do put a lot of effort into trying to make sure this all works and making sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Paul. And obviously, I heard the talk earlier, and we're talking about cost of getting a customer on site. That's increased about 19% over the last couple of years. for you guys, how do you measure success? How does your business ultimately determine, your investment in your various tech stacks and, getting someone on site? One of the questions we didn't really touch on, but you can kind of bring this into it, was, the multitudes of technology platforms that you have to inherit or leverage. How do you measure that success, both, kind of acquiring a customer on your website and then also, the overall ROI of your tech stacks? Maddie, I'll start with you. That's a big question to finish on.
Yeah, it is a good question to finish on. I think, outside of like traditional, incremental revenue lift or the ROI, we've been doing a lot of testing around Crow, around where we actually look at investing further, on our site and further to support our customers. I think we've had some great wins across PDP in terms of like incremental revenue and kind of, faster checkout and things like that, which has been great. But we've run some other tests, in this program on the PGP, and we haven't seen great success off the back of that. Now, just because we haven't necessarily had a huge dollar win doesn't mean it's a fail. I think it's also can point you in the right direction of where you should be investing for the future. So I think Crow's been really helpful for that. We also work with a company called Humi. I'm sure people in the room have heard of them, but they do like online mystery shopping, and you kind of, accept into like a data pool, and other retailers all share their data around like the mystery shopping results. And I think we always look at that at scale with large data period behind that. And if we're constantly kind of trending down against the industry benchmark, it could be across like search and discovery, pre or post purchase support. We'll take that away as well and go, okay, where are we going to invest in, how can we support our customers, and, where should we be investing next? So yeah, a combination of both.
Awesome. Paul, just quickly from you, we've got about a minute left.
A lot of different things. It's not always about conversion rate. As you said, it's around what you're trying to achieve. Every single test we run, everything we do has got specific metrics attached to it, so we need to make sure that we hit those metrics.
Yep.
And it's like we've just launched, as I said before, the blog. It's not about conversion rate, it's around engagement, it's around trust, it's around getting people on board, and advocacy as well. So not everything we do is around conversions, it's around advocacy and trust and loyalty. So
cool. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to fire off a couple of these questions because I want there to be value from everyone as well. Paul, you're pretty popular here with this new website. First question, which you'll answer pretty quickly. How much of your blog content is written by AI?
0.
There we go. I was hoping that would be the answer. Awesome. And then how have you overcome the pain point of stock at particular stores not being available for click and collect in-store purchase?
So being a legacy company, the company is old. The tech's old. There are bits and pieces we're still working on, but we are building better integrations with store. We're building a whole new stock logic. We're trying to understand where the stock is and building out more of an omnichannel, omni-store approach. We're more starting to shift to shipping from stores. We're looking at stock and putting in buffer levels and all that kind of stuff as well. We're doing a lot of work trying to understand where the stock is and trying to build out systems to support it as well. But, at the moment it is what it is. In a month, it's going to get better as we start evolving and building out new stock capabilities and actually then understanding from a global sense of where our stock sits and able to track where it's going from offshore to onshore, all those kind of things as well, and integrating that all into the one system.
Awesome. Thank you, mate. Our time is up. There is a good list of 15 or so questions here, so thank you, guys. I might ask the guys to join us on our booth for maybe 20 minutes throughout once the following next session is finished. Lastly, obviously, I want to thank the panelists for their time and for joining us for this, that we have a fantastic partnership with each of these brands. Please scan the QR code here. There is a last chance to win. All three brands have kindly donated some excellent prizes and gifts, including Corey Steen's sex toys.
You'll be really happy. Yeah.
You'll be really happy. I have seen them, and I have got
no
some...
money back guarantee. So you didn't pay.
He's got some great return stories, that business, I'll tell you what. And Chemist Warehouse as well, and New Balance very kindly have donated some gift cards. I don't know if Nico has sent me the winner, but I think what we'll do is we'll give it a little bit of time, and then we'll hopefully find out the winner of that and present it. But look, I hope the session's been valuable. We certainly do, obviously thank Content Square for the partnership and the opportunity to be participating in today's session. The team and I, as I said, will be on our booth outside, so please, feel free to come and ask us any questions. We'll certainly follow up with a lot of you, I'm sure, who have shown interest. And yeah, hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.
Awesome. That was so amazing.